So this is the first episode of the essay show that I will be bringing to you probably several times a week for a while, and I'm calling it 13. And the reason I'm calling it 13 is because 13 is the number of transformation. And that certainly is what we're looking to provide now for ourselves and for each other. There's a lot to talk about right now. I haven't been on my YouTube channel personally like this since mid-July, maybe, right before I went to Australia. And that would have been just a few days after Max Spears died. The fallout from that was tremendous and continues to reverberate, and some people think it was an accident, some people think it was a shot across the bow. Regardless, it's been used even by activists in our field, very prominent activists in our field, to divide. To seriously divide, on top of getting some massive publicity for themselves. I even got dragged into it myself when there was no reason for that to have happened. No reason at all. But, you know, sensationalism is the rule of the day right now. And, you know, this requires us to talk as well. This is something we need to talk about. It's something I've been thinking about at length, as have so many of the activists that are working right now. What is our business? And what are our relationships with each other? And while I think that it's fantastic that so much of the false constructions in our field are just tumbling to the ground, you know, yeah, that's absolutely terrific, but it creates a vacuum, right? And what the question is now, what shall we fill that vacuum with? What shall we fill that vacuum with? And shall we continue to be distracted by all the nonsense? Shall we be distracted by all the nonsense that continues? That's part of the plan too. It isn't just these people who, you know, have become clearly, you know, users and abusers and false, you know, con artists, really. Snake oil salesmen, you know, a lot of people are very, very charming, and so could sell the hell out of all the right things, the truth, for example, or helping us all come to the truth, working our way toward the truth, but instead they sort of concoct a one-man band, and if they are charming enough, they make a hell of a lot of money, right? I mean, I've been saying this about the United States anyway for a very long time. My having to leave the U.S. To get my voice heard back in the U.S. predominantly was because there was already a set of stars in the United States that had the market cornered on, for example, chemtrail revelation and all of that. Some of them are millionaires. Some of them are millionaires when this whole thing started. And there just wasn't any room for anyone who wasn't sort of part of the cult of personality that developed. Very easy for that to happen. We live in a culture that's fed by Hollywood and the media. So it becomes the cult of personality almost immediately. And then it's a closed circle, and people have their, you know, their territory, and they want to keep their territory, and you are not invited in. I know when I left the U.S., it wasn't too long after I left that someone popped up who was, it was uncanny how much they were like me, just about the same age. A Waldorf teacher. I mean, how many of those are there in the activist community? 2, apparently, me and this other person who, yeah, I just can't quite buy that she's actually a Waldorf teacher, because I've talked to this person and she absolutely refuses to have a conversation about Waldorf or the schools that she's worked in or any of that kind of thing. And I promise you, my friends, there is no such thing as a Waldorf teacher who doesn't love to talk about it. There's that. And also she was from New Mexico. A Waldorf teacher from New Mexico, just about my age, pops up in the space that I had left. Not only that, but that person, you know, ended up blasting comment sections on, or bombing comment sections on my interviews with links to her own material. Oh God, I couldn't believe it. So, I mean, you know, the hosts of those shows were just sort of appalled that anyone would do that. It's just not done. You just don't do that. So anyway, it doesn't matter. I guess my point is that this has been going on at some level for a very, very long time. And I think the plug got pulled recently quite on purpose to further damage the credibility of those of us who are still working in the field. Okay, so having said that, though, I want to say that shortly after Max died, yes, I went to Australia, and I was very, very pleased at how that went. It took me 4 years to get there, as most people know, and about 10 months worth of fundraising, and then I ended up having to throw my own money into it and hope that, you know, everything worked out. But the people who hosted me in Melbourne, Melbourne Against Chemtrails, were absolutely outstanding. I was on a radio show there, absolutely outstanding, and then up to Byron Bay, to a place called Starseed, and that's where I rolled out the first Fae lecture. Now, that was the maiden voyage of the Fae lectures, so I have learned a lot since then, and I know quite a bit about how I want to make that just a little bit fleshier and fuller. And as long as I'm on that topic, I do want to say that February 24th in London at the Rudolf Steiner House Theatre, my good friend Maria Wheatley and I will be giving lectures she will be giving lectures on the Druids, and I will be giving lectures on the Fae. There will be followed by a question and answer session. Yeah, that's my daughter walking down the stairs. And then, that's okay. And then we will have books there. We will be there to chat and sign books and things like that. From 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., Friday, 24th of February, there will be a way to buy tickets in advance on my PayPal site. That should be up shortly. You can see, I will be telling everybody I interview with how to go ahead and buy those tickets. And you can buy, and they are, you know, you can buy them from my PayPal site in advance. That's the best way to do it. And there's a lot of lead time. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. There's a lot of lead time, and it should be a terrific lecture. I will talk more about that as we go along. One of the other things that I really want to talk about on 13, periodically, maybe every other show or something, is one of the episodes I have out from the workbook. It's the episode that deals with the false chronology that's in place right now, the extra 1,000 years that was inserted in our timeline. And the reason I want to talk about that, well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all of the things I talk about, this is the one that causes the most cognitive dissonance. People just have a very, very difficult time embracing this or getting their head around this, and that makes sense. Because it's our history, it's everything. It's the timeline. It's how we move through time and space. It's how, you know, kings and queens and politicians and, you know, sociologists, everybody justifies their, lovely, thank you. Okay, so you may notice right now that I've gone a lot farther away from the camera. These kinds of things are going to happen until I really decide what it is that I want. I even actually thought about carrying this camera around with me while I walk, because I walk and talk all the time. I'm very comfortable with that. But my daughter came down the stairs and fixed this. That's going to happen, okay? Because actually, no, I'll talk about that later. I want to continue to talk about the chronology. Two things I think are going on with this. As a teacher and as a researcher, I have to say. First of all, I think that there are just people out there who have no relationship with this idea of the timeline and history and who cares. And, you know, it's one thing to be an activist and look at the news and say, oh, come on, that's crap, you know. And maybe comment on something that's come across your desk that's clearly, incorrect and manipulative and moving the herd and all of those sorts of things. But if you collect all of those millions of moments up that we talk about every day, then what you have is history. Okay. So you are participating in history, even if you would rather have your teeth drilled than open a history book, okay? And frankly, it also occurred to me that people like that might just be people who refuse to engage. On some level, they know that history is absolute bollocks. It's an absolute global fabrication. Intentional and deliberate fabrication, okay? Now, there are some fabrications are, have to do with the way human beings conducted their business on this planet, sort of naturally. Groups of communities that didn't communicate because of distance and time and things like that. And that happens. It absolutely happens. But it doesn't happen to the extent that we can prove scientifically, if that's your thing. It's absolutely been proven mathematically, astronomically, statistically by some of the best minds working in non-English speaking Europe. That the chronology that we all live by, which is called the Scaliger chronology, is patently false. It was fabricated in the 16th century, and leading lights behind that fabrication were Jesuit monks in France, and they were helped by the Benedictine monks. Anyway, this is all research that I have done, and I put it out in my episode. The other thing I'm thinking could be going on for people out there who are really struggling with this is that some people are really into history. Some people love history, absolutely love studying history, and perhaps their life is pinned on some historical moment. This is what justifies all of what they do, maybe, or all of the things that they love, or, that sort of thing. It becomes extremely difficult to get your brain around this idea that one can no longer use history to justify anything. Try to have any kind of a conversation, that's in any kind of context as we know it, without saying, well, because this happened in 1910, this is happening now. Is that so? Is that true? Probably not. Maybe so. No one knows. That's the thing. No one knows. And so there is a group of scientists in Russia who are trying to actually valiantly doing their level best using supercomputing as well to create what they would consider to be as true a chronology as they can actually put together, considering that all of the primary sources have been very conveniently lost, most of them in fires. Yep. So I do want to talk about that, and I want to continue to talk about the false chronology a little bit, because I want to talk about Anatoly Fomenko, who's sort of the Russian scientist, mathematician, who's leading the charge on this at the moment. Listen, this goes back to Isaac Newton, this goes back to Johannes Kepler, this Oswald Spengler. I mean, there are many, many, many people who have known through the ages that the chronology is just patently false, and have said so. Isaac Newton's last book was about how the chronology was false. Okay. So when we talk about this guy, Anatoly Fomenko in Russia, he's been working on this for a very long time, since the early 70s. He's got 4 volumes out. I wrote this episode, which is the first episode, otherwise known as a chapter, in the second book of the Dangerous Imagination, or the Imagination Chronicles. Yes, the Imagination Chronicles. The first book was Dangerous Imagination, Silent Assimilation. The second one is just called The Workbook. And I'm putting out bits of it because there's a very wide net that's been cast. Okay? And each bit really should be served up as a separate course. And then in the end, they will all be put together. But I think we should encounter each one of these things one at a time. Anyway, I went over about 2,000 pages of Fomenko's research. It's brilliant research, by the way. And something like 45 videos that were put together by a woman called Sylvia Ivanova on the New Earth channel. She's brilliant. Please have a look. It's New Earth, one word, all small letters, etc. I want to show you this. I want to show you this book. There are 4 of these that I went through to distill 50 or 60 pages for you as a place to start. As a place to start. That's what I do. I consider that kind of thing to be my job. So let me see if I can get this into the screen. See this? See that? Yeah. 500 pages a book. I went through 4 of them. Yeah, there are 7 or 8. Some of them are only on Kindle, which is a shame. You need to get these books and hide them away for later because they're going to start disappearing anyway. So that's what I've done. I've gone through all of this book and all this material, and I've tried to make a way for your first encounter with this idea to be logical, to be substantial, and to give you my primary sources so you can go and continue to do the work yourself if you want to. That's great. You should. Obviously, absolutely should. Yeah, so one of the things I want to do probably tomorrow is talk about how Fomenko put together definitions. Okay, let's just call them that. Definitions. What are we looking at? What's history and what isn't history? What's worth looking at? What isn't worth looking at, and why? And a lot of that has to do with commonalities. It has to do with things that appear constantly. It also has to do with understanding the astronomy that goes along with this. Very important. It's a small bit of astronomy. It has to do with the moon, but it's extremely important that we understand that. This is an Occam's razor situation. If you don't know what Occam's razor is, let me tell you, it's this. If all other things being equal in a situation, the simplest explanation tends to be the right one. Makes sense, right? Anyway, a couple of things I want to say before I sign off on this one. I just wanted to get this thing launched. I wanted to let you know that what 13 is going to be about. There are some things coming up. I'm going to be in Ireland first week in November doing some research with Maria Wheatley, and very much thanks to James Swagger and some other people. This has to do with the Fae and the Fae lecture and the project that Maria and I are working on. Then in February, I have this lecture planned for the theater at Rudolf Steiner House in London, 6 p.m. Friday, February 24th. Tickets will be pre-sold, £20 a ticket. It will definitely be worth your money. And then in April, I may be going back to Australia. I would very much like to do so, but once again, I have to fundraise the trip. And, you know, as brilliant and amazing as that trip was, and as happy as I can be that I went, there is a nasty troll down there. And she has several aliases who talk to each other on Facebook. Ugh. And she created quite a bit of trouble for me while I was down there. So hopefully that will go away and we can get some work done. But I mean, what's a troll's business? To prevent work from getting done, right? To attack people personally, to sort of send minions to watch someone's page and report back. This is also known as gang stalking. Okay. I have several interviews to do this week. I'm doing Randy Moggins, my lovely friend Randy, on Wednesday. I'm doing James Swagger on Capricorn Radio, finally, on Monday, the 19th of September. Wednesday, the 21st of September, that's Randy Moggins. Saturday, I'm doing Lance White, Zany Mystic again. And I'm trying to get on to C.W. Chanter, my friend C.W. Chanter. He's an interesting guy. He's an interesting fella. He's really interesting, and I would like to talk to him. I really would. Yeah. So I'm gonna. Okay. He said some things about everybody on the circuit. Whatever. That's fine. You know. But we just need to chat. And I want to talk. I think probably that's a good venue for talking about the chronology. I really do. He's going to ask some good questions, which hopefully I can answer. And if I can't answer them in the moment, you can bet I'll be able to answer them, 5 minutes after the end of the show. So that's it for the moment. There will be frequent insertions of this new essay show called 13 by Kara St. Louis. So I hope you tune in. I'm still looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for 25,000 followers so I can get on. So I can use the YouTube channel in London. That's what you need. You need 25,000 followers, and then I can go over there and use the YouTube channel. It's not very far from where I live. And number two, I have to say, and I'm going to say this a lot, because this is just a situation that I'm almost never in. Most of you know that I work for a living. I'm a teacher. One of my children is very ill right now, and I am on sabbatical. Unpaid leave, folks, until the end of the year. And so I am putting up a PayPal donation button because we need help to get through December. So there's that. It's worldlectures@aol.com. One word, all small case, on PayPal. I'm going to hope I'm not breaking any YouTube rules by saying that. But you know what? This is what it is. And so I'm going to say it. And then the thing about it is, though, that gives me time to also work on this kind of thing, which I really usually don't have time to do between teaching. Usually occupies about 70 hours a week. Lecturing when I can, writing, and going and talking to the various hosts about this stuff. So, comment section will be open. Please don't be a troll or a bore, because I will kick your butt right out of my comments. But if you have something constructive to say, my God, please say it. Absolutely. So off we go. And if I didn't think I'd be breaking some kind of copyright rules, I'd be playing Lauryn Hill, I Got Out, or I Get Out right now. I would. I think it is an amazing anthem for what we're trying to do. But if I play it in association with any of my work, then I'm probably breaking copyright rules, so I won't. Anyway, we'll see if we can get an edit on this and get an upload. And I will always have to reach around to the back of the camera to turn this thing off when I'm done. Probably. Okay? All right. See you soon. Right? All right, let's talk about it. Yeah. Well, maybe we can edit that out.
Do you want me to turn this on?
No, I wanted to help you set up a better frame, first of all, because I just noticed it's a little close, and I wanted to also say I'm sorry, because I know I yelled a couple more times.
Oh, that's okay, but I'm like 20 minutes in. I'm recording. Do you want to be on?
No.
Because I can turn the camera. I know, so I'm okay with this right now.
Well, it's a little claustrophobic, and that can affect your viewership, and I know that's something that you were, like...
Can Duncan edit this out? Can we edit this out?
Yes.
Because I don't want to start over.
Yes, we
Yay!
can.
Because I want this to go out today, and I don't want to start over.
So, okay.
What do you think about the background, then? As long
good,
as we can edit it out.
But no, it's fine. The background's good. I'm just going to make it a little more centered, because it's a little more appealing.
Actually, I have it zoomed in. You could just zoom out.
No, you're fine. You're fine now at the angle. I just see how it's like, it's not quite your shoulders, but it's just a little more than just your face.
You sure you don't want to be on?
No, I don't.
Because I love this. I love this homey stuff. We could just leave this in.
No, we're not going to.
Okay.
Because